Okay, folks, hello. This is going to be a short guide as far as medium tanks on Sand River. This should be taken sort of as jumping off point. You should sort of look at what I'm doing and then alter it to your playstyle, because just because this works for me does not mean it will work for you. Uh, so disclaimer out of the way, we'll talk about it from spawn 1. If I'm going to be playing spawn 1, there's a few spots I'll go to. Generally, I won't play north unless I'm playing in a platoon, and if I'm going to do that, I'll push up this way, cut through here, and eventually get through here, hoping to, push this all out and get into their base, right? This is a very short, version of what that would look like if it succeeds. If it fails, you basically do the reverse, right? You'll get up here, you'll realize, okay, this flank is falling, you'll pull back and set up an ambush on this whole ridge right here. That'll give you cover over this whole area. It's going to be the same for side 2, but we'll talk about it when we get there. My next play is going to be pushing to the ridge over at F5. What I'll do is I'll push right through this, get here, and what this gives you is shots and vision on this whole pass. What you'll have a lot of tanks do, myself included, if they're lazier, they will push across here, you'll get free spots. I've had multiple games where within a minute of the game starting, I've been at 2,000 damage. It's very capable, and I think it's worthwhile. If you want to play a little bit more safe, depending if there's artillery, which, by the way, I would not play north if there's a lot of artillery. I would not play F5 if there's a lot of artillery very often. It's kind of finicky here because in the event I get lit, you will be dunked on more than you ever thought imaginable. And that could be really detrimental at the start of the game. But if there is artillery and I still want to achieve a bit of farm, I'll push to H5. There's a mosque here. It's this black building. This gives you shots on this ridge here. Anybody sitting down in this area. You could also shoot the light tanks that sit in the bushes up here. And I find it to be a really nice spot, especially if your team doesn't play it aggressively and you play it kind of passive and wait for the enemy team to push through this. You can farm pretty big. Now we'll get to my pretty much default play from spawn 1. If I'm not playing H5, I'm playing down on the JK line. What I'll do is I'll start by committing up this way. Hold on. By the way, if you're going to go to H5, let me cover this really quick. Do not cut directly through. Follow a path sort of like this. Use this ridge as a bit of a guideline. You should be below this on the map, south of this bump, in order to be a little bit more safe and get to H5 normally. Without losing any HP. Just think, right? If you commit down here on this road and go to H5, you're getting there quick, sure, but to what point? The only tanks that play in that like valley are heavy tanks. They're going to be pretty slow. There's no reason to rush. Cut up around, use this ridge as a guide, and then go into H5. It's safer, and you have no rush to get there really. But as far as pushing the JK line, what I'll do is I'll cut up through the 1 line, down through here, and I'll start here. We'll call this position 1, right? From here, you have shots on this ridge. You have shots on, and can get farmed possibly by K3 and K4. You have to be careful if you're playing here, because you will get lit by tanks right here, and you'll get farmed by artillery, tank destroyers, even heavy tanks. If it's like a chieftain or super conk here, you'll have a problem. But once you get to spot 1, ideally, your next push is going to be getting to, we'll call this spot 2, right? Getting in this little sort of pocket allows you to counter K3 and K4, and it allows you to spot any tank destroyers or generally just support tanks back here. You can even sometimes spot things back here if you have really good B range. It depends on how aggressively you're poking this, but it can be a little tough, especially if you're fighting through a lot of camo. Once you get through spot 2, your next goal is going to be spot 3, which we will ping right here. This little pocket will again allow you some pretty crazy spotting. This area right here, this whole TD ridge, you could even farm if there's tanks still over at G5 and G6. I did this just the other day on stream. I farmed a T95 from almost full HP at position 3 down to G6. It was just free farm. You could even farm any tanks that are sitting here to kind of counter north. Position 3 is very powerful on that south push. Now you got to be a little careful because you'll have sometimes artillery that'll counter you, tank destroyers sitting in weird positions, even somebody sitting here slinging HE, somebody here slinging HE, here. Just because you're hull down does not mean you're entirely safe. But hopefully that gives a rough idea of how I play the red base spawn, or I suppose side 1 we'll call it that, in medium tanks on Sand River. Let's now talk about green tanks and their respective play. So again, the same thing applies for north. Sometimes you could sit here with the intention of shooting this cross. I've had success with that. Again, 3,000 damage. There's no shame in starting here and then retreating back and moving somewhere else, right? I would only do this in like faster tanks, faster mediums. Otherwise, it can get a little finicky if you get pushed. I've had tanks commit like over here and even over here that my team couldn't shoot and have farmed me for a lot of HP. So you just gotta be a little careful of that. But as a whole, I wouldn't really touch north or this middle area until late game. There is something else I'll add at the end of the game, replay review there, or map guide, sorry. I have my brain on replay reviews. As far as the real play, again, I think this game is a won and lost on like the JK line. I'll start here as sort of a support tank, depending on my team. If I have a pretty heavy team presence, I'll push immediately to K3, because once you get there, you generally prevent this. You could sometimes counter shoot this. You will spot anything here. You could even spot things in this area as well, using these ridges here, here, and here. That will, they'll use that to try and get height to shoot mid. But the sooner you counter out J1, you'll be able to push from this up over the ridge and get down to J1. From J1, you have eyes on this whole area, effectively. Even further out here, depending on if you're winning mid, you're spotting this. There's free farm on their like TD support ridge. Once you've won down at J1, I will push to F1. Once you get to F1, it's sort of the same as K8. They share a lot of the same properties. You could spot so much from here and counter so much. All the artillery sitting here, even if they're tucked in here, you'll proxy spot it. Any TDs on the support ridge, you'll farm. And anything mid is yours for free. So they share that similarity in the sense that once you get to either of those spots, either F1 or K8, you're pretty much winning the game. Otherwise, I think that will cover most of Sand River and a medium tank. If you guys think I missed anything outside of... Let's talk about this really quick, actually. If you guys have won north, but they're playing really like campy south, right? Or even on this ridge here, we'll lump this in. If side 1 is playing really campy, let's say, in this whole area, you can use this ridge. Like you could push through mid and use this ridge to go hull down, and you'll be able to counter F1. You know, you have to be a little worried about this, but if they're camping really down here, riding the middle ridge is a great way to counter that. Anyway. Otherwise, I think that'll cover Sand River for medium tanks, at least how I play them. We'll talk about every other tank class on this map, hopefully all the maps to a degree. Some of them will probably be faster, because for heavy tanks, for example, we'll sneak preview if you want to call it that, it's going to be a lot of similar play on the JK line. Basically, north will be removed, so it'll be pretty short comparatively. Hopefully, I'll do like a recap video as well for all of them. Anyway, that should be Sand River. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please, if you have any criticism, this is the first video I've made. If you'd like me to try and talk slower or elaborate on certain positions, the comments or my stream are the best way to do that. All you gotta do is ask. I'm pretty receptive and I'll be able to help, or point you in the direction of someone who can help. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hopefully you had a good time, and, you know, I'll see you on the stream. Goodbye.